Hi, everybody. I'm Judge Penny Wolfgang. The Buffalo Bills have an exciting season ahead. What can we expect from our hometown team? A top analyst has the answers. Where does the Seneca Nation stand with leadership and the compact with New York State? Find out in the Tony Farina Report. That and more right here, right now on The Big Picture. Welcome to The Big Picture. The Bills won Monday night in front of a national audience against the Tennessee Titans. Here to offer insight into the season is sports podcaster and social media influencer Brad Gelber, who has a personal and corporate platform with West Her Automotive. Welcome, Brad. So when we talked about doing this show last week, John says to me, I know you don't know too much about football. I swear, but we have, how dare he, right? And then he says, but we have an expert that we know and that we can get to come and comment and tell us everything, and it's you.
Yeah.
So I found out that you had done this before,
Yeah.
so all right, now, what's your reaction to the season so far?
Yeah, like we were talking about before the show, was with WBBZ for a while. We used to do a football show for quite a while. That was a lot of fun. But yeah, I mean, the season opener was great a week ago, and now we have to wait 11 days or so for the next game. And I think everyone was biting in anticipation for the home opener because it's a little bit of a wait there. But we get there, and boy, did they deliver last night. I mean, that was a lot of fun. I think you have high hopes when you see a team perform well, and then you have realistic expectations, and somehow they kind of merged in the middle there because it was just from start to finish a great game, and I think everyone who went to the game had a lot of fun, and I don't think you could really ask for anything more from a home opener.
The whole time between, the first and Monday night, I kept thinking, as I would hear more and more, I kept thinking, oh my gosh, I hope people aren't like, raising their expectations and having these high hopes. And that's sort of like true that we were doing that. And when John sent me the script, I had a laugh for today. It says, in case they lost, the Bills lost last night, won last night, pick one, and then, but don't worry, even if they didn't win, because we still have the rest of the season to go. So that reminds me to ask you, so not only expectations for the game, but what are we talking about Super Bowl? I mean, the expectations that people have.
Right, and I think that's a good point, because anytime you put expectations on a team, you worry, what about the letdown, and what about, what's the chance of them actually living up to those expectations? I think actually being, Buffalo fans were sort of conditioned to maybe getting let down just because they've not won the Super Bowl yet, and we had all those years of tough football. But we've really turned the corner now, and we talked about it recently on the podcast that I'm a part of, and I've talked about it with friends and family, and it's just really, this is real. Like, that's the hardest thing maybe to realize is you think about it like, this is real. I was back in the 90s during the Super Bowl run. I assume it was a similar feeling, but it's this thing where it's like, it's actually, there are Super Bowl favorites for a reason. They've shown it the first 2 weeks. And I think when you have a quarterback like Josh Allen and some of these other guys on this team, you can start taking some confidence in knowing that each week they really have a chance to win the game. And if they keep playing like they did last night, I think more and more people are going to jump on the bandwagon.
I used to be, the times you're talking about, when we would be on Monday Night Football, the few times that we would, I just was so upset because I'm not watching because I know we're going to lose. Yep. And all my family and friends and everybody in New York and everywhere else is going to be ha ha ha. Yep. So now it's a different thing, and I'm wondering if the fact that we did have Thursday, Monday, the fact that they chose us, let's say, to be on network television, does that mean something?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think for years, the drought years when the team wasn't making the playoffs and winning, we never had primetime games. You'd be lucky if they got a Thursday night game, which is kind of the lowly of the national televised games. But I think that because of that, now they're really getting these primetime games. And people still like to play on the disrespect card. They like to assume, because last night they got the earlier Monday Night Football game, so there was two, and they got the 7:15 game. I think people still like to play up on the disrespect of that, but they have primetime games all year long, and they're just, they pull in such high ratings. This is, they're the real deal at this point.
It's funny you mentioned that. That was so annoying to me that they kept switching and showing the other team. I don't ever remember them doing that.
Yep.
I thought, yes, that was very disrespectful. Yeah.
Well, they actually had the two broadcast teams. So the main Monday Night Football team went to Philadelphia for the other game. So we got kind of like the B team, if you will. So people still kind of felt that disrespect in the sense. But I think that's always a fun theme for fans to play on is, we're the underdogs still, even when they're the Super Bowl favorite. So.
Now, you're with West Hereford, we mentioned that, and West Hereford, and you see the commercials. I don't know if you have anything to do with them, but when Steve Tasker does the commercials with Josh Allen, do they talk, like, are you there, or do you know anything, or do they talk smack to each other, or can you tell us anything that they talk about?
Yeah, so they actually do, like when we're there, we do our whole marketing team, we have our external kind of team, media people, and then our actual internal team. It's one of the most fun days of the year, actually. We do like a full shoot day. It's all of our social media and content and broadcast for TV. But Josh and Steve are actually just like you see on TV. They're really close. Steve loves Josh from what we know. Josh loves Steve. We kind of play on this big brother thing with little brother, and it's just a whole lot of fun seeing them together.
Well, I told Steve this a long time ago. My favorite of those ads is when when he's throwing them. They're each throwing, and he looks to him and he says to him to Josh, "Are you even aiming?" I don't know. I thought he must have made that up, right?
Yeah.
Talk about Josh. Let's discuss his leadership ability and what difference he's made. Obviously, to the team.
Right. I mean, we would have to have a 10-hour show to be able to talk about all of that, but I think it's just immeasurable, the impact Josh Allen's had on this community, on this team. You talk about prior to him, kind of quarterback purgatory. They just couldn't find the guy since Jim Kelly, and we saw Jim Kelly last night at the opener. He's really passed the torch to Josh Allen at this point. But that's the thing with Josh Allen is he's come in. He's a Western New York Buffalo guy through and through, even though he was never lived here, not from here, but he's that blue collar kind of guy that just ties in so well to this community, and the people just love him here. I think not only from what he's done on the field, off the field, obviously everything with Oshai Children's Hospital, so much in this community, but then you bring winning football to that as well. It's immeasurable, the impact he's had. And just imagine if they win the Super Bowl this year, in the next year or two, how much even more beloved. I can't even fathom that at this point, but he's really changed the culture along with kind of the coaches and the front office and everything, but he's that linchpin in this team, and where he goes, I think the Buffalo Bills go as well.
I think that's pretty obvious. And the chemistry between him and the other players, I think, is important too. You can see how they respect him, and mutually.
Right. I mean, totally, because he's the leader on this team. He's the face of the franchise. They said on the broadcast last night he's close to being the face of the entire NFL at this point. So I think they, like you said, they do respect him. They see the work he's put in. They've seen where he's come from his rookie year to now, to being possibly rated, 1-2 best quarterbacks in the league, and what impact he has on the team as a whole. Like we just said, there's quarterbacks that are really good, that have good teams around them, but he really takes this team to the next level in addition to some other players here. And I think that's the point with Josh Allen is just the respect, the leadership, all with the coaches, the players, everyone. And look at a guy like Stefon Diggs, comes here, falls in love with Josh, they're best friends now. Like that's just a prime example of who Josh Allen is, I think, as a football player and as a human being.
And you can see they really mean it too. You can see how real it is, we can't ignore the issue of the injuries, because it's probably on everybody's mind. How is it going to affect us going forward, and what do you think? There's any way that we can they can protect the players, our players, from those kind of injuries or any kind of injuries?
Right, and I think, football's obviously a violent game, and the injuries are just part of it, but the Bills have one of the best training staffs in the NFL, one of the best resources in terms of their actual training facilities. It's always renowned, the money that the team put into that. So I think they do all the right things, but freak injuries happen, unfortunately. Like last night we saw with Dane Jackson, a really weird play with his own player, Tremaine Edmonds, after the tackle, and it kind of hit his neck like that. And was taken away in an ambulance to ECMC, but this morning the team reported that he did have full feeling in his extremities, and he was actually able to walk out of the hospital. He's already home today, according to the team, which is just a huge sigh of relief, because if anyone watching that game, I think all of us were really worried about him just as a human being, as a person. So yeah, injuries can derail any Super Bowl favorite season. If you, I mean, you know, knock on wood, if it's someone like Josh Allen or someone, you know, that's your season could be done in a heartbeat. So you just do your best, I think, to hope and make sure that there's no injuries like that. But sometimes it's just unfortunately part of the game.
It's always the whole controversy among, you know, sportscasters and you, I'm sure, as to whether they should let Josh or encourage him to run or to get into, you know, any situation where he might be hurt. But
100%.
Probably nothing you can do about it.
No, and I mean, he's a big guy, he's a tough guy, he's a strong guy, but there's moments, I think we all watch Josh, especially in games where they're ahead, where it's like, Josh, please just get down. Like, we don't need to risk
Exactly.
it. And that's why they took him out of the game last night, actually, when it was, the score was what it was. It's just not worth risking it at that point.
What about the owners? Talk a little bit about the Pagulas and what influence they have. Like how hands-on are they? How much do they let the coaches and the on-site people manage, and how much do they interfere?
Yeah, I think that's a good question, and I think every owner's different, every ownership group's different, and I think especially early on, obviously the Pagulas had come from the Sabres, originally owning them, and purchased the Bills as well, and that's a lot of different resources to put into two different major teams. So I think early on they were much more hands-on until they kind of got the leadership group in place that they have now. I think once they brought in a guy like Sean McDermott, Brandon Beane, some of these guys they really implicitly trust, they didn't have to be quite so hands-on anymore. I think there's rumors was who picked Josh Allen. Terry Pagula was supposed to be, he beloved Josh early on. Seeing him throw, you just become infatuated with that strong arm. And there was kind of talks, well, did he push them to draft him? And if he did, thank you, Terry, because that worked out pretty well. But yeah, I think over time you just bring in the right people that you can trust, just like West Her, just like WBBZ, any of these places that are businesses, you can't do everything yourself. So you bring in a leadership group that you can trust, and I think that's where we're at with the Bills now.
We can't, they'll be yelling and screaming at me if we don't talk about the Bills Mafia, right? They'll be saying, no, she doesn't know anything about football. True. So tell us about the effect of the Bills Mafia.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you could really even put into words the difference they make in a game. I think last night, if you watched the game, you could just see packed to the brim, right, of the stadium. And we know Bills fans are just second to none, and they've suffered, we said, for a long time in between the 90s and now. And I think we're really getting to the point where they just can have fun. Like, football's fun again because they're winning and they have a really, really good team. But it does make a difference, I think, when you're home in Buffalo and you're watching this team play. You can feel, the players talk about it all the time, they can feel the energy, right? When they're in a tough spot or when they're up, it brings a whole nother momentum to the team and the stadium. And I know Josh talks about it a lot. So I always feel like Bills fans are kind of really part of the team because they do make a difference at the end of the day.
They talked about what a difference they made in LA during the LA,
even on the road.
And I mean, and that's pretty far away.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh my gosh, you know. Tell us how we can contact our viewers if they want to talk to you, or whatever you call it on social media. You don't talk.
Yeah, you can follow or connect, any of those synonyms.
They're laughing at me, but whatever you call it.
Yeah, so you can find me on Twitter personally at Bradley Gelber. It's just my name there on Twitter. And you can also follow us on our West Her accounts. We have a lot of really great content. Everything's just at West Her, depending on the channel. But a lot of fun stuff planned for the season and beyond that, and always fun to connect with people that have similar interests on social media.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Brad Gelber, for your insight into the Bills as we cheer them on. That's an understatement, right? Okay. The Big Picture, we'll be right back.
Let's go, Buffalo. Let's go, Buffalo. Let's go, Buffalo. The Bills make me wanna shout.